Welcome to Kazukian.
R&R on sports, artivism, best in blue, funky politics, blues in the basement, neighborhood connect, riffin' on jazz. On the Kazukian Network. Best in Blue. Connecting you, the listener, to the everyday inner workings of the Memphis Police Department.
From Kazukian Studios in Memphis, Tennessee, it's Best in Blue. In Blue. In Blue.
Hi, I'm DC, and I am your host of Best in Blue right here on the Kazukian Network. And guess what, folks? We are talking about domestic violence, but we want to first let you know that Best in Blue is a show that highlights the inner workings of the Memphis Police Department. We take a deep dive into what's really happening on the streets of Memphis. And you know what? One of the things that's happening in our city right now, domestic violence. It's on the rise. It's in your communities. It's in your neighborhoods. It's in your home. And we brought one of the best in to talk to us today about that. How do we address domestic violence in our community? And we've got the very best, Lieutenant Steve Roach, who is with the Domestic Violence Unit. How are you, sir?
I'm well, sir. Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about domestic violence and where we're at here in the city of Memphis with respect to Memphis Police Department.
I got you. I can tell you this. Domestic violence is probably the most reported crime and probably the most underreported crime in the city of Memphis. And I say that because of different cultures and things of that nature, where it's not really promoted, or it's not really, I don't say promoted, where it's not really put out or reported. Let's talk about what actually domestic violence is.
Yes.
According to the TCA, these are some of the relationships that are in there. It's adults or minors or former spouses. It could be adults or minors that are related to those spouses or current former spouses. Long story short, you have intimate partners, you have children of those intimate partners, and you have family members, cousins, uncles, aunts. And then it breaks it down even to non-intimate partners, which are either family members living together or people that live with you in the house. If there's any type of assault or any type of harassment or anything of that nature, that all comes to our office.
But now you said intimate partners being, I've got to know that person on just rather a casual work relationship level, or just not necessarily in the home, right?
No, glad you asked that. Intimate partners is more of either spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend. There should be some type of a relationship there. Usually it's involving a type of sexual relationship. Okay. Now that covers every race, gender, sexual orientation, you name it. DV encompasses all of those things when those crimes occur.
DV. So the number of cases that you face in the DV unit, on the DV unit, on an annual basis, what are we looking at in terms of numbers right here in Memphis?
Annually, right now we're at, and I pulled this up just before I came over here, we're at 10,293 cases.
Wait a minute. Hold on, stop right there. We have had 10,293 cases filed with the Memphis Police Department.
Yes, sir. Now you got to think too. That's considering anything from intimidation, harassing phone calls, all the way up to an aggravated assault. So that encompasses a lot of different reports. But yes, we have over 10,000 reports on file right now.
And so, man, that's just hard for me to wrap my hands around. But that's why you're listening to the Best in Blue right here on the Kazukian Network. We try to bring you the most up-to-date information out there, and our Memphis Police Department is doing the hard work. Let me ask you this question. In terms of your partnerships or your collaborations with other entities, I understand there's one with the Family Safety Center that allows some of the victims somewhat of an outlet. Can you explain that relationship to us here?
Yeah, sure. The Family Safety Center is actually the 6th floor at 1750 Madison. It's the entire floor there. On one side is the criminal side, or the criminal investigation side, where we partner with the county. They handle their side, of course, and we handle the city cases. And then on the other side of the building, I guess, or the floor, you have what's called the Main Family Safety Center. They help with orders of protection. They help with counseling. They help with placing families that are needing help finding new houses. Anything to go along with social services, so to speak. They handle that aspect. We handle the criminal side. They handle the social side.
10,293. Now that's just with the city. That's not. Is that including the county?
The county. We get about 60 cases a day.
60 a day?
Yes, sir.
Intimate relationships. And so, man, how can the listener say that, look, I don't know, I mean, I know this person, they're calling me, so is it something I need to let them know, hey, don't call me first, or do I call the police first? How do I do this?
I would call the police first.
Okay.
There is sometimes the TCA doesn't stipulate that you have to tell them not to call you anymore.
Oh.
TCA meaning the state code, state laws.
Yeah, sure.
Doesn't mean you have to tell them no. However, in my opinion, I think you should say something. That way we have a definite timeline and we can establish a timeline with the prosecutors, and that's what they look for. And it helps us in prosecution. Saying that you don't have to, but I would encourage you to do so. And after you said that, don't have any more contact with them. Stop the phone calls. Don't even accept anything, and don't Facebook or anything of that nature. People get in a lot of trouble, I think, these days with Facebook.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you about the social media piece, and I'm assuming that you addressed it in DV as well, too?
Yes.
Because a lot of this, in today's time, like you say, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, and so forth, Twitter, people are getting in trouble by just simply harassing somebody
Yes,
that
sir.
They think, it's just going to go away. But I think all this stuff is in cyberspace somewhere, right?
Yes. It's easier to take snapshots of things on the internet, especially when they posted them. So keep that in mind when you're the victim of these crimes and you've got that. Don't delete all these things.
Yeah.
Keep them on your phone or keep them on your tablet or keep them on Facebook until we can get them.
So the moral of the story here is, if in fact this persons are harassing you, there has been some type of intimate relationship with you, these things need to be reported to the Memphis Police Department.
Yes, now keep in mind that's not just, that can be cousins, family members, non-intimate partners.
Yeah. Now let me non-intimate again. Let me get a deep dive into non-intimate, because I want to make sure people understand the difference between the cousins, the moms, the dads, the boyfriends, and the girlfriends.
Sure.
The non-intimate can be what again?
Non-intimate can be it can be other family members, mom, dad, sisters, cousins. It can be people living in the house with you. Let's say you're living in the house with some friends.
Yeah.
Y'all live together domestically. That is considered a domestic assault or a domestic relationship. What is not a domestic relationship? Co-workers, neighbors, rooming or boarding house people. They all have their separate rooms.
Oh, I see.
Hotel guests. That's not a DV relationship. Just about anything else can be considered a DV relationship or domestic relationship. That even goes to kids. If you and your wife had children, or if she has children that are hers when y'all get married as your stepchildren, if y'all get divorced, if you do something with that, if there's a domestic situation there's a domestic violence case, because it's a former spouse and it's their children. So now you have it's very broad.
And the law covers this all. This is amazing to me to hear this, especially the non-intimate and the intimate piece, because I don't know if a lot of people at work know that, hey, that's probably assault or that's threatening or harassing behavior. And so now they know where to come to.
Well, the good thing about it is if one of those things happens and you contact the police, our officers are pretty good about knowing what that domestic relationship is, if there is one, so they know where to take the report, and that comes to our office. If it doesn't, it goes to where it should be going.
Okay, and that means that they will not direct it to DV, but they may direct it to another area within the department, correct?
Yeah, usually another bureau or another departmental GIB.
Wow. That's why you're listening to the Best in Blue right here on the Kazukian Network.
Best in blue for you. Best in blue. Best in blue for you. Kazukian.
Rolling down the street with my radio on, listen to Funky Politics.
The mayor of the city of Memphis, Mayor Jim Strickland. How are you, sir?
Fantastic. We keep it real, we keep it right, and we keep it funky.
Funky Politics, part of the Kazukian Network.
This is Lieutenant Roach in the Memphis Police Department Domestic Violence Unit. You're listening to the Best in Blue on the Kazukian Network.
DC back here with you with Lieutenant Steve Roach right here on the Best in Blue, and we're taking a deep dive. We're really looking into domestic violence and what's perpetuated right here in our community in the city of Memphis, and how our department really work every day. They work every day in trying to assist the victims and how we can get closure on some of this. And some of the things we were talking about, Lieutenant, right off air for a second, and that was this cycle you talk about, the cycle of how the victims become the victim.
Yes.
Can you take us through that, and then to some finality in terms of what's that last step? Is it order protection or what have you? And let's go with that piece. I want you really to let the listeners know what they ought to be doing.
Sure, and I really hope that none of your listeners are in this type of cycle. Basically, it's where you meet that person for the first time. There's that whole I'm in love face, and then we get to a place where there's some type of stressor. that makes the individual, keep in mind this could be the female or the male, or the male, however you want to divide that up. It could be either one. There's a stressor, then we have a violent abuse situation, emotional, physical, some type of abuse situation. And more than likely, most of the time, somebody will get locked up in that situation. Once they get out of jail, it goes back to the let me try to woo her back.
Yeah.
The honeymoon phase is what we call that. I love you, I'm sorry, it won't ever happen again. And then it goes back again to we're in love, and then you have that cycle again. The stressor, maybe or maybe not going to jail, but there's always some type of a stressor with a violent act in there, and then it goes around again to I'm sorry, forgive me, it won't happen again. It's just a complete cycle until it gets broken. The sad part of it is a lot of these families, when these things happen, there's children involved.
Yeah.
So, and that's where a lot of times with the Family Safety Center we mentioned comes in. More than half of these situations, there's some type of child involved, and they see these things. Why do they stay? Why do they stay with these victims? I will say, why would the women stay with the men? Because that's predominantly what we come with. I'll use that in this scenario. Most of the time, it's because they're afraid. Sometimes there's a money situation. Well, if he goes to jail, if I report it, he goes to jail, where am I going to get my money from?
Yeah.
Which is a sad situation in itself. There's shame involved. They may have no hope because this is their lifeline. This is their person they go to for everything. Even though he hurts me, I still love him. Again, we have that cycle that completes.
You're listening to the Best in Blue right here on the Kazukian Network. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lieutenant. You're about to make a point.
Yeah, it's a matter of dependence. And
that's what it is.
Yes.
I mean, rather we use it as negative or positive. I mean, it's a dependence, and I can tell you right now, personally, I grew up in a household where my stepdad was an abuser of my mom. And the odd thing about it is when she would put him out, and he'd be gone for a stretch, maybe 2 weeks or whatever. We'd say, "Hey, where's Johnny boy? Where's he at?" We felt that longing to have him there, and I don't know if that caused her to have him to come back or not. But even the kids play into it sometimes. They miss that person because they don't see that type of violent behavior. Or some do, like I did, but I still wanted him. I mean, why is that?
Well, you got to remember, domestic violence is not really about anger itself. Anger is involved, yes.
Yeah.
It's about control.
Yeah.
If I can maintain control, then I've got you dependent. We've had situations where they've isolated, especially where they move the new girlfriend or the wife from out of town. They move her back to Memphis, let's say. Now I've got you away from your family. You're dependent completely on me. So now I can do what I need to do to maintain control. There's other instances where religion may play an involvement there. The cultural issues may play an involvement. The Hispanic culture does not report this as much.
Do you think that's because possibly of maybe their legal or illegal status, possibly, or is it just something in their culture that you all have seen in terms of your data?
From what I have seen, one of the gentlemen in our office, one of the investigators, is a Spanish speaker.
Yeah.
He's kind of the liaison for our group, and there's a lot of it that just doesn't get reported because I can only assume that it's an accepted type thing. The man is the man,
dominant figure,
the figure in the house, and it just doesn't get reported as much.
Wow, that's amazing to me.
Now there may be something to do with the legality status, the immigrant status.
Yeah.
That may be an issue, but it's from what I can understand from our liaisons and other people that are working, some of the lawyers that work with the Hispanic community, it's more of they're not comfortable reporting this to us.
But I think our Hispanic listeners need to know, though, that when you all make the scene on something that's considered, you're not. I'm not there to get you to INS. I'm there to try to get that victim some assistance.
We're there to help the victim. Yes, that is by far our greatest desire, is to help that victim, to get them to the Family Safety Center if they need some housing, if they need counseling, to let us do our job and lock somebody up if that's going to be the case. And then we always encourage every victim, regardless of who they are. We always encourage victims to go get orders of protection. Yeah. Orders of protection is not a magical shield that throws up around, but it gives us another tool to whereas if you see somebody out, or if you're out of the in the community and you have an order of protection against the suspect, again, we'll use the male and female. If the female sees that her boyfriend is out, she's got an order of protection against him, she calls the police. One of the greatest things that we use nowadays is those cell phones. Yeah. Take pictures, take video. That allows us to come and lock them up because they have violated that order of protection. They can't be around them. It also enhances the charges. If you're calling and you're steadily calling and you have an order of protection on that person, If they're steadily calling you, or if they come over by, God forbid they come over and hit you again, it's no longer a domestic assault now. Now it's an aggravated assault because of that order of protection.
You're listening to the Best in Blue right here on the Kazuki Network. And the order of protection. I mean, there's some folks in the communities, and I've talked to some people in the community of color and so forth, and others, and they'd say that, the order of protection to me is just a piece of paper. But you're saying that piece of paper is important. It's important to lay the foundation, to lay the groundwork, and it's got to be done. Do you see this in your work on a daily basis where people are just saying, I just don't want to do that?
Yes. Believe it or not, we have.
But why though? Why, Lieutenant?
That I can't answer. Again, it goes back to the why do they stay?
Yeah.
Where is that dependency coming from? We have a lot of people that will file reports and never
come
follow
back to your
through.
office.
They never call us. We call them several times. We send contact letters. They never call us back. A lot of times, it appears that it's just a get them out of the house type situation.
So I'm for instance, I battered a woman, and it's visible that I did this. When you make the scene, I'm arrested. She files a complaint, and after that, I'm assuming that there's another process. She may go to the Family Safety Center, and then after that, what happens?
Well, the beauty of it is out on the scene, while the officers are making these reports, there's two different forms. One's a hold harmless, and one's called a lethality form. Basically, it's a form, the lethality form, assessment form, kind of gives us a history. Hey, has he ever done this before? Have you been in fear? Has he threatened your life before? Basic questions that get scored against the suspect.
Okay.
The hold harmless actually gets them to write what they said and what they want to say on paper. And at the very bottom of it has all kinds of instructions about phone numbers to call from the Family Safety Center, phone numbers for the domestic violence office, where they need to go get an order of protection, all of those things like that. So we can take that form, and if they don't want to come in and talk to us and they say, look, I'm scared, I don't want to come in, but this is what's going on, we also have body cam footage. Thank God for those.
Yeah.
And we can look and see what the officers see firsthand. If we see injuries and we've got a statement from them, we can lock them up. Now, we'll give them a chance to talk, but we can arrest them on those.
But now that person's now become reluctant because of this cycle to push it forward. Can the department still, along with the DA's office, can they still take this guy or this lady to court and get some justice for the victim, even though they are fearful?
Yes, state law will allow us. We have the hold harmlesses. If we have their statement, something written on paper, they say this on video, we can show that it's actually what they've said, and they've got injuries consistent to what they're saying. The hard part is when there's no injuries, there's nothing there, and we can't show any evidence or anything. We can also look at their not their arrest history, but their history of reports. We've got some men in the city who have several reports against different women.
Wow.
And it's crazy, but it happens, and we lock people up for that. We will lock them up a lot for that.
You're listening to the Best in Blue right here on the Kazuki Network.
Time is truly wasted. There's no guarantee. Smile is in the making. We gotta fight the powers that be.
Artivism, funky politics, R&R on sports, neighborhood connect, blues in the basement, riffin' on jazz. Your three black chicks, Best in Blue, Kazukian, KUDZUKIAN.
Rolling down the street with my radio on, listen to funky politics.
The mayor of the city of Memphis, Mayor Jim Strickland. How are you, sir?
Fantastic.
We keep it real, we keep it right, and we keep it funky.
Funky politics, part of the Kazukian Network.
Best in blue. Best in blue.
Hi, I'm Lieutenant Tyrone Curry with the Memphis Police Department, right here on the Kazukian Network.
DC back here at you on Best in Blue right here on the Kazuki Network. Sitting here with a good friend of ours, Lieutenant Steve Roach, and we have been really talking about some great things that the Memphis Police Department is doing with regard to their efforts to, tap down on the numbers of cases of domestic violence in our community. And one of the issues that we were talking about, Lieutenant, is the GPS monitoring system and how that does work after this victim has done their part.
Yes.
And then your part comes in, and one of the tools that you all can use in trying to assist the victim in getting the justice that they need is the GPS piece.
Yes. Yeah. We started back in July of last year with a grant from the state using GPS monitoring on all of our what we call felony arrest. Basically an aggravated assault, domestic violence. Criminal attempt first or criminal attempt second is what we cover. Since that program, that program also covers any type of sexual offenders as well. Since the program started in July of last year, we've had over 1,000 participants in that, which means that's also including domestic violence victims, because we give our victims a GPS if they would like it.
Oh, wow.
Basically what happens is the suspect is locked up for one of those charges. Yeah. When they get out, through pretrial services, they are attached with the monitor. They're given an area where they cannot go. They can't be anywhere in that area because it will let them know by a buzz and a sound, hey, you're close to the victim, you can't be here. You're close to this exclusion zone, you can't be here. And what's really neat about this is the victim can come into our office and have, now the suspects are attached. The victims, they can just have one. They don't have to be attached anywhere. They can put it in their purse. They can put it in their pocket.
Like a key fob or something, possibly.
It's a little bit bigger than that. It's probably about the size of the inside of your hand.
Okay.
It's a little box. They can put that anywhere it will fit, and it sets up a mobile exclusion zone. That way, if the victim is anywhere near the offender,
wow,
it buzzes, it lets them know, so we have a safe space. Right now, we have about 333 devices being used. That's split between domestic violence and sex crimes. We have 219 DV suspects on the monitors, and that's only 46 DV victims.
You're listening to Best in Blue right here on the Kazukia Network. What's your percentage on the reoffenders in terms of something like the 219? Have you seen any of that yet in your data?
I can tell you that exactly.
Sure.
Right now, we've had 158 total arrests. That means they have violated their bail conditions with that monitor. This is set out by the courts.
Wow.
Where they've gone and sat in front of the house.
Yeah.
They can't do that. That's part of the exclusion zone. Or they've gone and we've actually had some who have gone and found the victim and assaulted them again. And of course, then it ups it again.
Yeah.
There's other things in place to keep, those second offenders in jail. But this is one of those things that the courts love because it gives them a chance to let the suspect, or I say let the suspect out. That's kind of a bad way of saying that. But it gives them a chance to have some freedom without crowding the jails.
Yeah.
But also we have a chance to monitor them and make sure that our victim, we're about their victim. We want to make sure that victim is taken care of.
I think we also need to make sure that folks know that your job will be to apprehend and arrest and incarcerate them. But now the court system will play a big part in terms of release.
Yes, it
and
will.
I think in terms of pretrial services, now if you've got a person who's reoffended, as I guess use that term, it's not the police department's fault that they got out. And I think sometimes folks may blame the department when it's not a department issue.
It's just a matter of the way the court system works. Sure. Again, they can always revoke that bond if that happens again, which means they can't get out.
Yeah.
This is just a way that an attachment to their bail conditions.
Okay. Another one of the pieces in domestic violence in our community that a lot of folks don't talk about, and that's elder abuse. And how do you all address that within the domestic violence unit at MPD?
That's exactly a good question. We actually have 2 investigators assigned in our office to nothing but elder abuse. It's on the rise, and I don't know if it's on the rise because it's occurring more or because it's reporting more. Elder abuse this is a mandatory reporting state, just like the child crimes or the child sex crimes and the regular sex crimes. This is a mandatory reporting state. So if you know of anything of elder abuse, somebody's being neglected, someone's being abused. Now that usually applies to elders is defined in TCA by 60 years old and above. That also applies to vulnerable adults. Vulnerable adults are 18 years of older that are maybe have some type of mental disability or something of that nature, but there's always a caretaker involved. If a caretaker's involved, if they feed them, clothe them, bathe them, all of that stuff, if they're given them medication, if they're in a care home, there's a caretaker involved, elder abuse laws apply.
And in terms of the number of cases right here in Memphis, you got a statistic on that?
Yeah, we get what's called everybody usually goes through the Adult Protective Services. That's where most of our stuff comes from. They get...
State of Tennessee.
You got it, yes, sir. They file a report through them, and then what's generated is called a 1215, and that's kind of a memo, I guess you would say. Yeah. That comes to us. We get about 160 to 165 of those a month. However, some of those, after they've gone through we triage them to see which ones are actually cases and which ones are not. We get probably about 30 to 40 a month, and our 2 investigators handle those. Those are long-term cases. Those aren't the quick one and done. I've got this person, I know who it is, let me lock them up. A lot of statements involved, a lot of things involved, a lot of medical records, financial statements. anything of that nature. But they take a little bit longer, so we lock up probably about 15. I think we're averaging about 15 people a month as far as arrest goes.
Yeah, for lack of a better term, I'd like to put a bow on this thing. You know, in terms of domestic violence and what the Memphis Police Department has done to help try to tap the number down. We've got a family safety center that we've got in Memphis that works with you all and with the county. But, Lieutenant, tell me, what can we do as a community, number one, to make sure that even the least of that, those folks who are elders, who are being abused, and there's not folks out there that are watching out for them, what can we do? What about the young people? What about these women and these men who face these domestic violence issues? As a community, what can we do?
The best thing that I have seen, and the Family Safety Center has done a great job, and that's education. I don't know any other way other than getting more boots on the street to help combat some of the reactive measures. And again, if that's something that you would like to do as a community, feel free. JoinNPD.com. Go there and look at that up. But education, I think, is going to be our key. The Family Safety Center had a camp this last summer called Camp Hope, where they had victims of children that were victims of domestic violence, or their parents were victims of it. Matter of fact, there was 2 children there. Their mother was killed in a domestic violence issue, and the father that did it actually committed suicide. So now they're without either parent. This camp took them in and did a lot of good stuff with them.
Yeah.
And we're able to help them through the Family Safety Center. They did a great job. They're going into communities along with us, going into communities and talking about what to look for in DV, who to contact for DV. It's a matter of the society itself and the culture itself taking a look and saying, look, that's something that shouldn't be, that's off, and you know what's going on next door, you need to call. If it's nothing to it, what have you lost? Right. A few seconds of your time.
Call and report.
You got it. I would rather you call and report and it be nothing than not.
You're listening to Best in Blue right here on the Kadzukian Network.
Best in Blue, recorded live at Kadzukian Studios in Memphis, Tennessee. Executive producer Larry Robinson. Best in Blue, part of the Kadzukian Network.
Best in